Hey, greetings everybody. Welcome to another video where we are going to be talking about some global stuff today. It is not time for JP news yet, but I will give a little bit of an update first for talking about JP stuff. Our Reincarnation Festival, which is coming up, which I do believe Global will also be getting one of these. I'm not too familiar with exactly how Global's working or what the things that you guys might end up choosing, but I figured I'd show the winners of JP just for the sake of JP, and they're not too terribly surprising. Basically, some of the newest characters that were available on the list that are also the most popular, such as Dario, Odoa Volk, Astrius Thunder version, of course, Mont Earth version, of course, Kitane, Helena, and June. So, pretty unsurprising result given the possibilities. For people who are wondering, Gilgamesh was not a choosable option on JP. Of course, the new version of Gilgamesh, so is what it is. Also, just taking a quick chat about something that also is going on. JP players are still marching their way towards getting their Ice Veritas. As you can see, I'm 20 out of 120 being able to get them. I'm very excited get this character because this is one of the ones I end liking. Fire Veritas will eventually and shortly end up being mine. Also very exciting. As for Earth Veritas is still taking bloody forever. Okay, so also really curious if anybody can identify the music that is playing in this video. I'll give it a second right now. People can listen to it, and then we'll get into JP or global news. All right, if you can tell me what it is, good for you. I think I rented this game once when I was very young and played it once, and I have conflicting memories about literally how far I actually ended up getting in it. So, Global this week is going to be showing, and matter of fact, I think today, the 5th, as you guys just ran over a rollout of the new content, is the Princess of Ovis Part 2, not Charles, Luciel. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Luciel from a JP perspective and generally what I think about her. First off is just in terms of just a lightning character. I don't find her to be that imperative towards lightning's success. I know it's the first lightning character in what seems like a while. Squall I'm still not too hot on for the most part. Squall has disappeared from JP for, just better characters if we're talking about absolutely high tier. Luciel, however, I think her, in terms of quality, goes a little bit further negative from my more recent perspective of her. She's frustrating to fight against, yes, but in all honesty, I just don't see her as often. Most people who do have her, who couldn't get some of the other characters that have come along since, feel like they are just maybe better than her, given the way some things are going. Of course, my impressions are sometimes wrong, but Shawls is one I like better just because she fits into lower cost events. If you are going to be playing a, cost limited event, I think you'd rather have 2 100 cost characters or 190 cost, whatever you need to do to fix. And if you can fit a healer character or tank character, I think those are generally lower costed, usually. Because Luciel doesn't survive against multiple DPSs against her, so that can be a very, very bad outcome. But also with just JP's new character, this one, her performance has dropped considerably. Like, if you would have asked about the week after, playing against her in the following weeks has been frustrating because essentially she does stall out a game often enough to be potentially good in that respect. but then she can't do much else on her own. She just literally can't. And high-end magic DPSs are just her, like, she hates them. She does not want to see them. She does see them more often than not. She will end up just flat out failing. And so my recommendation right now for, and this will update depending on what else comes out on JP over the next little while, but Luciel to me is a permanent edition character that you can end up skipping, getting potentially later, and she's a fine enough character. I don't think she rates good enough in terms of like spending a ton of resources to max her right away. Even if you did end up just getting her off of tickets or whatever, I still don't think it's worth your resources. But then again, the next two characters or the next few characters are also kind of harder to recommend too, because that Cypher is generally still really strong, but feels like his performance has dropped because of this strong mage. Fina feels like she will be a good investment down the line as she's a powerful character who can deal with a strong status effect, and that's always going to be valuable, not only for PvP, but I think for PvE too. I also think she just plays better than Luciel. While Luciel does, the speed thing and whatnot, the range on Fina in her heals and some of the things she can do, I think is just generally more valuable for PvE and PvP. And yes, I would be saying that even if I hadn't pitied her. I still think that is true. But I do think that if we were just taking in a void from the next bunch of characters that are coming out, including upgrades, Reckon is by far the most powerful and most influential character of all of them by what feels like a considerable margin, where she's able to actually erase some of the things that the more recent characters have come with, along with. And that's from also like looking at a recommendation of, hey, I have limited resources, I want to get a very strong character that will be better for me. I'm like Reckon, I recommend more for mages than I do Fina and Luciel, potentially even combined. And when it comes to Cypher, I mean, there's still a little more time to evaluate what JP gets next, which could change the formula. You look at like last week in Cloud, Cypher, and Fina still looked very strong, and I still think that is a very strong composition. Don't underestimate Cloud. Cloud was a character that when he first came out, he was strong in Greatsword team, sure, but he wasn't in the most powerful composition in the game. That it feels like changed, but then changed again. So there's so much movement, and it's so hard to pin down exactly where people should be. But I do feel very confident in saying skipping Luciel will not hurt you in the slightest, and her being on a Selecta banner is almost a certain thing. So long term, it's not worth spending a third of a switch, because I assume that will be a viable, or they are going to offer the bundle option for her, as well as Fina, as well as Shrekken, and I just can't recommend any of those three right now for like spending that much actual real world money. In-game resources, it's Shrekken all the way, unless you don't care about high tier PvP at all, which definitely is something that I feel like the people who watch my videos will resonate with. So with that all being said, with Umbra being the most negative poo-poo person ever, let's talk about the other thing, which is the VC. The VC is a Hollow VC, Fey Princess of Obis. Looking at its job requirements, Sword Red Mage, Sword Knight, Staff, equipable main jobs, this isn't one that I've seen in too many comps, even to this point. It's good with some of the more recent characters that have come out, especially stronger characters, because Sword Knight, obviously that is potentially interesting. Cypher, Red Mage is interesting. For Gilgamesh, Staff Devout, obviously, who are title character, and all of that is generally fine. But I actually think that the VC itself is, again, a really, really low priority in terms of resource. So yeah, both of the banners this week, I think you're perfectly fine to just not and save resources. I think that unless you're a super big fan of green-haired girl, it's perfectly fine to keep saving. And with JP just being such a hot pocket for characters coming out and being really strong and upgrades, you know, sometimes being relevant, it might be worth just, you know, cooling off in this hot weather. Anyway, that's all for me. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll bring you JP news as soon as we get some. Later.